Welcome to this bonus episode of Once Upon a Crime. It's Halloween, and I wanted to give you a little treat, an extra story as we mark the holiday. Halloween calls to mind spooks, haunts, and things that go bump in the night. In this story, horror comes to a family in the middle of the night. But unlike ghostly tales, this was all too real and was the last thing they'd ever expected as they invited the monster into their home. This is the story of When Horror Came to Town, the Farmville Murders. How many of you are music lovers? Music is a medium that can evoke feelings of joy, sadness, and nostalgia, and transport us emotionally to another place and time. Because music does have such a power to affect moods, it has been feared by parents of every generation. Some believed that rock music would warp their children's minds. Rap lyrics were said to inspire teens to violence. And grunge and punk rock tunes would turn young people into bums and druggies. Heck, even Elvis's music and hip-gyrating stage shows were believed to be morally corrupting America's youth in the 1950s. But we've come a long way since then, and music has evolved to include genres and subgenres that would have made those 1950s parents' hair stand on end. Rock, rap, and metal music have spun into even more niche genres, including acid rock, gangster rap, death metal, gothic metal, and black metal. No themes, topics, language, or subjects seem off-limit in music today, although some might say that specific genres of musical expression go too far sometimes. Horrorcore is one such genre. It is a subgenre of rap or hip-hop music that focuses its themes on gore and horror imagery. Graphic violence is the point of these songs. The darker and more gruesome, the better. According to its Wikipedia page, Horrorcore incorporates topics like death, Satanism, cannibalism, mutilation, suicide, murder, torture, and supernatural and the occult into its lyrics. Fans of horrorcore defend the genre against those who criticize it as unnecessarily violent and disturbing, saying that being a fan of horrorcore music is no different from enjoying horror films like Saw and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But horrorcore music has been said to have inspired several violent acts by young people. The music of Detroit band Insane Clown Posse, one of the most popular groups associated with this type of music, was said to be an influence on Columbine school shooters Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. Insane Clown Posse's most loyal fans call themselves Juggalos. The U.S. Department of Justice has identified street gangs made up of Juggalos whom it claims exhibit a high potential for violence. A law enforcement report lists this group as responsible for several violent felonies. It states that their weapons of choice include hatchets, machetes, and, quote, anything that can make the most violent, gruesome wounds, end quote. One Juggalo-led domestic terrorist organization, calling itself the Black Snake Militia, took part in an attempted raid on a National Guard armory in 2012. In 2009, 20-year-old Richard Samuel Alden McCroskey, living in Northern California, was an aspiring horrorcore rapper. McCroskey, called Sammy by his friends and family, resided in Castro Valley with his father and 21-year-old sister Sarah. McCroskey was picked on in high school because of his weight and bright red hair. He was described as a loner who immersed himself in music, especially songs that contained violent lyrics. McCroskey spent most of his time alone in his room, playing video games and listening to heavy metal and horrorcore music. His father, a rock guitarist, introduced his son to groups like Metallica and Insane Clown Posse. McCroskey became a fan of several horrorcore bands, which inspired him to write lyrics and create horrorcore rap. Sarah McCroskey describes her brother as a quiet kid who got along with everybody. Sarah said Sammy was a talented graphic designer, and after dropping out of high school, freelanced as a website designer. He began traveling to concerts and music festivals that featured metal and horrorcore bands. At one concert near San Diego, he met Emma Niederbrock. 16-year-old Emma lived across the country in Farmville, Virginia. Despite their age difference, she and Sammy soon discovered they had much in common. They were both into horrorcore music and were bullied in school. As a result of this bullying, as well as disciplinary issues, Emma had been homeschooled since middle school. Emma was also a fan of horrorcore music. Neither her mother, Deborah Kelly, a criminal justice professor, nor her father, Mark Niederbrock, a Presbyterian minister, were thrilled with her musical choices. However, they both hoped it was just a phase their daughter was going through. They believed their best course of action was not to forbid her interests, but to talk with her about them and keep a close eye on their daughter to ensure there wasn't anything they should be unduly concerned about. To this end, Deborah installed software on Emma's computer to monitor the websites she visited. Emma and Sammy clicked immediately and began a long-distance relationship through their MySpace pages, texts, and phone calls. He told her how he wrote and performed horrorcore rap music under the nickname Psycho Sam. Their virtual relationship had continued for nearly a year when they made plans to meet again in person. Sammy made plans to visit Emma in Virginia in September 2009. They would attend a horrorcore music festival called the Strictly for the Wicked Festival in Southgate, Michigan. They were both very excited about the concert and the opportunity to finally be together. Both had experienced upheavals in their home lives. Emma's parents divorced the previous year, and Sam was upset that his mother had moved out of their family home months earlier. Emma's best friend Melanie Wells would be staying with Emma and her mother in Farmville. She also planned to attend the concert. Emma was permitted by her parents to have her boyfriend Sam as their guest and to attend the concert. However, Emma's parents stipulated they would accompany Emma and her friends to the concert. They'd make the 10-hour drive with the three young people to Southgate, Michigan, as chaperones. Emma wasn't happy about this arrangement, writing on her MySpace page under the alias Ragdoll, quote, "Talk about a long-ass drive, sharing the car with a effing preacher. It's gonna suck," she complained, but added, "But no doubt, it's worth it." Sam McCroskey flew to Virginia on September 6th. Emma expressed her excitement regarding Sam's visit in her September 7th post, writing, "The next time you check your MySpace, you'll be at my house. I love you so much." Hey guys, I just wanted to let you know that I have a special Halloween-themed video out on Patreon this week. It's a Halloween party, and you're invited. You can join me and my friends Neil and Megan from Mortal Musings podcast for Halloween tales of murder and madness, a fun true crime trivia game, jokes, and general craziness, and all of it in costumes. If you become a Patreon member, you'll get access to that bonus video and tons of other extra content, and receive a thanks for joining gift. If you just want access to the Halloween party video, you have the option to purchase it for just $5. Go to patreon.com/onceuponacrime to purchase the video or join. Going directly to the Patreon site will save you the additional fee you'll pay on other apps. That's patreon.com/onceuponacrime. There's a link in the show notes. And thanks for supporting the show. Farmville, Virginia is a small rural town along the Appomattox River, about 50 miles west of Richmond. It has less than 9,000 residents. The Commonwealth of Virginia as a whole has a violent crime rate 39% lower than the national average. Farmville's homicide rate is almost non-existent. Emma's mother, Dr. Deborah Kelly, appreciated having such a small, safe community in which to raise her daughter. However, she was well aware of the dangers in the broader world. A graduate of the University of Illinois with a doctorate in sociology, Deborah Kelly was hired at Longwood University in 1994 as an associate professor of sociology with an emphasis on criminal justice. She conducted academic research on violent offenders, homicide, and sexual violence. In the spring of 2009, Dr. Kelly left her teaching position to focus on research. This also afforded her more time at home, which she felt was necessary since she'd become concerned about the behavior of her 16-year-old daughter, Emma. She shared with a colleague that Emma was listening to music with violent and macabre lyrics that glorified rape, mutilation, and murder. Dr. Kelly hoped Emma would soon grow out of this phase. Dr. Kelly, Emma, and Emma's father, Mark, were in counseling to work through issues that may be bothering their daughter, like their recent divorce. While her mother strongly disagreed with the content Emma was consuming in the music she listened to, Emma was nevertheless allowed to attend horrorcore concerts. Dr. Kelly told her colleague that she and sometimes Emma's father accompanied her to these events. She's either going to go on her own or I go with her and make sure she's okay, Emma's mother explained. In September, Emma's best friend Melanie Wells visited her and stayed at their home. Melanie, 18, the daughter of Thomas and Kathleen Wells, lived about 3 hours north in Inwood, West Virginia. She dropped out of high school and was studying for her general equivalency exam. She and Emma planned to attend the Strictly for the Wicked music festival in Michigan on September 12th. Emma's boyfriend would be arriving a week earlier, and Emma was excited about his upcoming visit and the concert. Sam McCroskey arrived in Virginia on September 6th. We don't know much about his visit. Perhaps it started well and then went sideways. It's possible, as sometimes happens in virtual romances, that the love interest you finally meet in person is not exactly who they appeared to be online. Was Emma disappointed, and did Sam pick up on those feelings if so? Maybe his expectations of the romance could not live up to the fantasy. This could have been a massive blow to someone like McCroskey. It appears that Emma was what you might call his first serious girlfriend. As for Emma, she may have thought she was getting a really cool boyfriend who wrote and performed her favorite music, horrorcore rap, under the name Psycho Sam. But when she met him in person, the realization might have set in that he was just a somewhat shy, socially awkward 20-year-old who wasn't as appealing as she'd made him out to be. Emma, on the other hand, was an outgoing, fun-loving girl. She was cute and petite and stood out from the crowd in punk-style clothing, a shock of fluorescent pink hair, and dramatic eye makeup. Whatever began to unravel between them, it appears that by the time of the long-anticipated concert, they'd had a falling out, according to McCroskey's sister, who spoke with her brother that weekend. Emma, Sam, and Melanie returned to Farmville on Sunday, September 13th. The girls' last MySpace posts were dated the next day. Melanie's mother was in almost daily contact with her daughter, so she began calling Emma's house when she hadn't heard from the teen in a couple of days. Emma's boyfriend Sam answered each time she did so. He said the girls weren't home and gave a different story about where they had gone. Finally, on Thursday the 17th, the concerned mom called the police and asked them to check on her daughter. When officers arrived at 505 First Avenue in Farmville, McCroskey answered the door. He said that Melanie was at the movies with a friend. They reported this back to Melanie's mother in West Virginia. Growing ever more concerned, Melanie's mom didn't wait too long before contacting the police again and insisting they help her find her daughter. Officers returned to the home on Friday evening and made a horrible discovery. They found 4 partially decomposed bodies in the house. Emma, 16, was found dead in her bedroom downstairs. Deborah Callie, 53, was found in her upstairs office. Melanie Wells, 18, was killed while sleeping on a downstairs sofa. Reverend Mark Niederbacher, 50, Emma's father, was also found slain in the home. They'd all been bludgeoned to death. The house was splattered in blood and resembled something out of a horror movie. It would later be determined that the weapon used was an 8-pound wood-splitting maul that had been taken from the backyard. Police issued an all-points bulletin for their suspected killer, Richard Samuel McCroskey. McCroskey waited until all 3 of the women were asleep before he attacked. He killed Melanie Wells first, who was sleeping downstairs in the den. He then went upstairs to Dr. Kelly's office and bludgeoned her as she slept. Finally, he returned downstairs and entered Emma's bedroom. Because neither of his victims had awoken before they were attacked, there was no noise to wake Emma. He killed Emma last, hitting her repeatedly in the head with the 8-pound weighted maul. Investigators would determine that none of the victims had been awake at the time of their murders, as there were no defensive wounds. The same could not be said of Mark Niederbrock. He'd been alerted by Melanie's mother after the police paid a visit and were turned away by McCroskey. He'd driven to the home to check on things on Thursday the 17th, 2 days after the initial 3 murders. As he entered, McCroskey came up behind him and struck and killed Niederbrock with the same weapon he used on the women. McCroskey remained in the home with the bodies of his victims for 3 days. He moved the bodies of Mark Niederbrock and Melanie into Emma's room. At one point, he recorded a video of himself saying that he knew what he'd done was wrong and he'd have to pay for it. He also said he was considering suicide. Instead, on Friday, he took Niederbrock's 2000 Honda and fled. However, the car was rendered inoperable when McCroskey damaged it in a minor accident. A police officer questioned him and cited him for driving without a license, but let him go. The Be on the Lookout had not yet been issued for McCroskey, so he slipped past law enforcement a second time. McCroskey was headed to the Richmond airport, where he planned to catch a flight back to California. He asked a truck driver for a ride. On the way there, the driver said that the red-haired young man seemed calm and made small talk with him. However, he recalled that his passenger, quote, stank like the devil. After spending 2 days with the corpses of 4 people, McCroskey smelled of rotting flesh. A manhunt had widened for McCroskey, and on Saturday morning, he was arrested at Richmond International Airport as he dozed in the baggage claim area, waiting for a flight out. He had a ticket to fly home on Sunday, and he'd tried to get his flight moved up, but could not pay the fee to change the ticket. He was charged with Mark Niederbrock's murder and the stolen vehicle. 3 additional charges of murder were pending, while the bodies were being identified. He would eventually face 6 counts of capital murder, since the law in Virginia tacked on additional charges when the accused killed multiple people within 3 years. Faced with the death penalty, which would be abolished in the Commonwealth of Virginia in 2021, McCroskey agreed to plead guilty to the 4 murders. The victims' families supported the district attorney's decision to offer a plea deal, wishing to avoid the additional trauma of a murder trial. On September 20th, 2010, McCroskey pleaded guilty and received a sentence of life in prison. The details of his short-lived career as a horrorcore rapper became fodder for the media. This resulted in law enforcement investigating his crime as a satanic or occult-type killing. A police occult expert was brought into the case to research symbols found in the music that McCroskey and his 2 teen victims listened to. McCroskey's computer was seized from his Castro Valley, California home as evidence. His MySpace page and the song lyrics he'd penned referred to mutilation, violent death, and the glorification of murder. Emma and Melanie's MySpace posts were also scrutinized, and allegations were made that they were also involved in occult practices. Melanie, like many fans of horrorcore music, created an online persona immersed in sex, drugs, murder, and rock and roll, it appears. She listed her interests as blood and gore, open graves, and dead people. But she also claimed that she'd gone to several after-parties and multiple hotel rooms after the last concert she attended. However, we know that she was with her friend's mother and her father, the pastor, who chaperoned. So like I said, it was just an online persona, something many people, not just teenagers, create for themselves online. Rumors were spread about the murders having an occult aspect to them, with some saying that the fact that the victims had no defensive wounds may indicate that a spell was cast to induce them into a coma-like state and rendered them unable to fight back. Police believe that the victims were simply asleep. Attorneys questioned about McCroskey's crime said it had nothing to do with the horrorcore music he was into, only that he was angry his relationship with Emma Niederbrock had soured. According to the Commonwealth's attorney, the other 3 people were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. But for some, the questions remain. Was Sam McCroskey more prone to violence because of his immersion in the messaging of horrorcore music? Or was this simply a case of a spurned love interest who couldn't handle rejection? If so, why did he kill the other women first? And why kill multiple people, stay in the home for several days, and then kill another potential witness before fleeing? One might theorize that once he became motivated to harm his girlfriend, Bukowski then decided to act out the words and deeds of the music he listened to and wrote about in his songs. In one such song, as Psycho Sam, McCroskey raps, "You're not the first, just to let you know, I've killed many people and I've killed them real slow. It's the best feeling, watching their last breath, stabbing and stabbing till there's nothing left." Farmville community members expressed shock that such a crime could occur in their small town. "Farmville, this is small town USA," one neighbor said. "Nothing happens here." That will do it for your bonus Halloween episode from Once Upon a Crime. Once Upon a Crime is written and produced by me, Esther Sanchez-Ludlow. My executive producer is Lorena Garcia, and my researcher is Emma Battaglia. To watch videos for each of our episodes, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll find it under Once Upon a Crime Podcast. There's a link in the show notes. If you'd like more true crime stories, you can become a Patreon member and receive an extra episode every month, plus behind-the-scenes videos and goodies sent to you in the mail. Go to patreon.com/onceuponacrime to find out more and join. Happy Halloween! Be safe out there. Until next time, be good to one another.